Okay, count us in.
All right. All right. 5, 4, 3.
Eat my shorts.
Hello and welcome. You are now tuned in to Totally 80s and 90s Recall. If you're new to the show, grab your backstage pass and step into the ultimate nostalgic experience as we dive into the iconic music, blockbuster movies, and pop culture moments from the greatest decades ever, the 80s and 90s. Well, I am one of your hosts, David, and jumping on the mic with me, as always, our resident mean as hell vice principal. It's my good friend, Rob.
Yeah, I'm real mean. Hey, today's episode goes out to all of you listeners who can associate with being the outcast and feeling like you don't belong. You're thinking about that last time that special someone was standing before you. You're thinking that if you could muster up an ounce of courage, you would tell them something like this. When you were here before, I couldn't even look you in the eye. You're just like an angel. Your skin makes me cry. And you float like a feather in a beautiful world. I wish I was special. But you are so freaking special. But me, I'm just a creep. I'm a weirdo. What the hell am I doing here? We both know I don't belong here. I don't care if it hurts. I want to have control. I want a perfect body. I want a perfect soul. I want you to notice when I'm not around. Because you're so freaking special. I wish I was special. But I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo. Again, what the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here. Whatever makes you happy, whatever you want, again, you're so freaking special. I wish I was special. Now, if you walk away from today's episode hearing nothing, at least hear this. If you feel like a creep, if you feel like a weirdo, and you're listening today asking yourself, what the hell am I doing here? And you might be finding yourself saying, I don't belong here. The Totally 80s and 90s Recall team is here to tell you, you belong here.
You know, typically your samples or letters
No.
tie into the year and or genre of what we're doing.
Totally did.
But you found something different today. Is that right?
I did.
That spoke to what you felt about this?
Yeah. It moved me.
Some out-of-box thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah. People are going to be like, oh, he's fast-forwarded to 1993?
There you go.
Okay. It's all fine.
Yeah.
Because maybe it plays across all those years anyway.
Yeah. There you go.
85, 93. It's not going to matter.
Doesn't matter.
So.
I think it fits today.
Yeah. So it always fits. You know what else fits?
A bunch of misfits.
Misfits.
Speaking of misfits.
I was gonna say.
Hey.
I was gonna say. You know what else fits?
Huh?
Like a glove.
Yeah.
But you say misfit. Speaking of misfits,
yeah.
so either one of those analogies work well.
Yeah.
Because joining us in the studio today is the resident movie hound. It's our third wheel, Kurt.
Ooh, I am the third wheel.
Welcome back.
I am the misfit of misfits.
Yes.
That is me.
Are you excited to be back?
I'm so excited.
You had a couple weeks off.
I did.
Yeah, you always get to re-energize.
No.
I guess.
On the last episode,
He's got a killer.
several
contract.
people, including my wife, your sister-in-law there, noticed your extra bit of energy, like you'd had some time off and you refreshed.
You are a liar.
No, people noticed. You had some
People
juice.
noticed.
Yeah, right
Okay.
at the end.
Yeah.
I got a little juice.
Unfiltered.
I'll try to
Yeah.
release my juice again all over
No.
you folks today.
Oh, now we've started.
Started already.
Yeah.
That's right.
You walked him right into that one.
That's right.
So
Too early.
You led
Yeah.
this horse to the water, and I drank from it.
that's right. So
What did you say in the last one? You were like, my
he's
shit's
unfiltered or something.
Yeah. My give a shit's broken?
Give a
something
shit.
like that. Yeah.
My give a shit factor is 0
That's
or
right.
Something like that.
I don't know. We got to write these things down.
I don't know.
Nah.
We
too much
always
work.
forget to write them down.
We got pens. We got no paper.
Kip should write them down. He's not doing anything else, but
Well,
unfortunately,
he's got that
he did
intern
not.
he's working with.
So, well,
Yeah.
how are the twos of yous doing this week?
Feeling like a Tuesday.
The two Utes. How are my two Utes this week?
Doing real good.
Well, that's
Real
good.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you got.
Still moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still moving forward.
I'm upright.
The entertainment value of this program is starting to elevate beyond anything I
doing
can
all right,
comprehend.
guys.
Hey, yeah.
So-
You're
healthy,
speaking to
yeah.
people that work in schools close to springtime.
Oh yeah.
It's not great.
No, we're just
Yeah.
It's
not great.
Had a little snow this week.
Yeah, we're waiting
Yeah,
for the.
that calms the kids down.
Oh, yeah.
Indoor recess is always fun.
Always a good one.
Those are the best.
So, you know what's funny is our friend Brad.
Yeah.
He teaches up in Minnesota.
Uh-huh.
I bet what we constitute as an indoor recess, they would laugh at us.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
Absolutely.
laughing at you.
Yeah.
Like, send them outside.
Yeah, I wish.
If it's not a negative number, they're probably going outside.
This is true.
So we get a little bit of snow on the ground. The buses might be late.
Yep.
No, so
It's the snowpocalypse.
snowpocalypse
Yeah,
2025.
that's right.
All right.
We will rebuild.
We will rebuild. Yeah. We'll slowly bring society back
That's right.
online. Wi-Fi. We'll get Wi-Fi back. We'll do it all. So, well, speaking of doing it all, Rob, what are we going to do for our topic for the episode this week?
We are going to try
Try.
to cover the Breakfast Club 1985 40th anniversary.
That is correct. So, Rob and I were discussing this last week with our preview portion of our episode that this is an actual. We always say iconic movies, and then we do Cocktail or we do Over the Top, and that's fine. They're iconic to us, but this is legitimately
No, it's that's
an iconic movie. All right. So, but this is legitimately an iconic movie to pretty much everyone who grew up in the 80s.
Yes.
So we were saying that, we have to really bring our best effort
Yeah,
this
I
week,
know.
only to find out that you fell asleep watching the movie
Oh,
and
well, I got-
you didn't finish all of your prep work.
Very
So,
busy man.
busy man.
I know.
We don't need to talk about how busy you weren't last weekend. So,
Well, last weekend I watched the movie. Last
Okay.
night I tried to and fell
Fell
asleep.
asleep.
yeah.
It happens.
You had to work today.
I could see
I
you on
did.
the notes at one
In
point.
the notes. Yes.
But you'd fall
Yeah.
asleep.
It just was it I've been known to fall asleep when I was younger.
Yeah.
When I had my job in the Air Force down in basic training, I'd work a lot of long hours, like 16-hour days. Sure. Well, sometimes I'd have to sit down and do work on the computer to like put in their stuff. Well, I would doze off, and then I'd wake up and I'd have like 45 N's in a row because I fell asleep with just my finger on an N, and then I
never
wake
done
up and go,
Yeah, I've never
Never
fallen
done that.
asleep at work.
oh, I have. Yeah.
It's frowned upon when you work with children. To
Well,
fall
no,
asleep.
yeah, you guys had different jobs, so you didn't have to like be out at PT at 4 a.m. and then by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you're just like, okay, this is enough.
Well, the fact that it's frowned upon doesn't mean that it doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. Yeah,
I've just never
It
done
happens.
it.
I know
That's
it
good.
happens. I've seen it.
you guys are too professional to fall asleep.
That's correct.
At work,
I don't know
so
about that.
you guys are great. If
I
anyone
wear a
hasn't
collared
told
shirt.
you,
I am professional.
if anyone hasn't told you lately, you two are great.
Twice in my life, I've snuck off to the nurse's station, taken a little nap.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
I've laid down behind my desk when the kids are at lunch recess.
No,
That's good.
I did that one year when I was super sick when I taught, and they couldn't get me a sub. So I laid down, gave the kids an assignment, and because I was dead to the world. I had to go home.
Had to go home.
They couldn't get me a sub. They said, you got to finish out the day.
All right.
Finish out the day. We
So I
can't.
had-
We want you to infect all the children.
Infect them all.
That's right.
So might as well get everybody sick.
That's right.
Well, your discussion of rules and policies of
Yeah.
school and
That's
the
right.
things you should and should not do
Goes with,
tie right into what we're doing today
That's
with the
right.
Breakfast Club. So why don't we roll the original trailer?
It is now 7:06. You have exactly 8 hours and 54 minutes to ponder the error of your ways. Any questions?
Yeah. Does Barry Manilow know that you raid his wardrobe?
A brain, a beauty, a jock, a rebel, and a recluse.
Can't believe this is really happening to me.
Before this day is over, they'll break the rules.
Chicks cannot hold their smoke. That's what it is.
Bare their souls,
I'm a nymphomaniac.
Are your parents aware of this?
take some chances,
Being bad feels pretty good. Huh?
and touch each other in a way they never dreamed possible.
Why'd you do that?
Because I knew you wouldn't.
The Breakfast Club. They only met once,
I don't want to be alone anymore.
You don't have to be.
but it changed their lives forever.
I mean, I consider you guys my friends. I'm not wrong, am I?
Universal Pictures presents Emilio Estevez, Paul Gleason, Anthony Michael Hall, Judd Nelson, Molly Ringwald, and Ali Sheedy in a John Hughes film,
Why are you being so nice to me? Because you're letting me.
The Breakfast Club.
Perfect length trailer. Not too long.
I was going to say, it's one of the shorter ones.
I like that.
I don't know if
Yeah.
we've...
They didn't give too much away.
Voice guy was pretty good.
Voice guy was good.
He was okay. Yeah.
Some of the transitions.
I don't think you like
were a
any
little
voice
hard.
guy at this point.
He
You're just
doesn't-
against all trailer, but that's not what he sounded like.
A different guy.
You're using that. You heard that once, and now you
That's right.
use it for every trailer.
For every
guy.
voice guy sounds like that.
And he doesn't. He didn't sound like that at all. So
That was the Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
yeah,
I didn't
and
like
you
it.
didn't like that one, but you keep carrying it over to all the other movies, and that's not what happened. So, well,
Maybe.
all right. So the Breakfast Club,
Yeah.
as Rob said, 40 years old, and after hearing that trailer, we got a good idea of what people would have seen or thought the first time they saw it on TV. So before we dive in and start discussing this movie, like we always like to do about this time, we're going to share what Siskel and Ebert's views were on The Breakfast Club. Any guesses? Or if you already looked, you have to recuse yourself.
I haven't looked.
I have
Did you
not
look?
looked either.
Okay.
I'm going to say they loved it.
Loved it. Good.
I'm
Okay.
going to
say Roger liked it. Gene
Okay.
did not.
All right. So he's going to go Roger liked it, Gene did
they
not.
both gave it 3 stars.
3 stars. Okay. We'll see what comes to fruition, Rob. We'll start with Ebert. Thought it was good to finally see a teenage movie that actually took its characters seriously. You kind of see this coming from Raj. This is a dialogue-based movie, and he loves dialogue, character-based movies. So this was always going to be right up his alley. But he gave it 3 stars, as you said. 3 out of 4 stars. He did have a couple negatives. He thought that the vice principal was too one-dimensional. And that the janitor was not necessary to the plot of the movie at all. That was his view. I disagree a little with Raj on that. I like the janitor piece a little bit, but he said that the janitor. But again, he just liked that the characters were actually serious, which maybe they were, maybe they weren't. We can discuss that later. So Siskel, 3.5 out of 4 stars.
Ooh, he liked it more.
So he went and he wrote, this confessional formula works especially well in this movie. And although the audience is constantly waiting for the movie to break out in typical teenage sex or violence, to our delight, it doesn't, and just deals with real serious issues for the students.
I like it.
So those were there.
pretty close.
So, but not everybody in love with this movie.
No.
New York Times and Variety, both
they're
pretty
stupid.
big,
Well, they're stupid.
They're dumb.
big pieces of paper, if you will.
I don't know.
They didn't like it at all.
They don't know how to.
New York Times said Sheedy and Nelson were given unplayable roles.
Well, that's dumb.
There you go. And Variety added that although the students talk a lot, they don't actually have anything intelligent to
That's
say.
the stupidest thing I've heard.
So, all right. Well, they get paid to do that.
Well,
At least they got paid in 1985. I'm going to guess after a review like that, maybe they didn't get paid no more.
no. I mean, no.
No.
No, you're all done
They
here.
were promptly fired.
They're gonna look back and.
So you're not happy with the New York Times and Variety.
Absolutely not.
And what's your views on Siskel and Ebert? You feel like they got
Perfect.
that?
Yeah, I think they got it right.
Think they hit it out of the
I
park.
think the 3 was low.
You're at 3.5.
So it's out of 4. You think a 3.5 or a 4?
I think it's a 4.
You think it's a full 4 movie?
Absolutely.
We'll debate that later. So I don't know that I can agree with you on that.
That's fine.
So, and that's fine. We do that all the
I
time.
don't care what you think.
I'm aware. You remind me every day, Rob.
Do not care.
You are
I am a Robster.
You are never shy about letting me know that you don't care about anything I have to
Surprising,
say.
I don't care what a lot of people think. But then I do.
But
That's
he cares.
not true. You care
He
deeply.
cares more than you think.
Yeah, but then I do.
You
He's
just internalize.
I internalize it.
He's our bender. He very much acts like he doesn't care what anybody thinks, when in reality, he probably
really does.
cares what everybody thinks.
Then I
So,
overthink it.
there you go. So, all right.
Yeah.
Well, Breakfast Club, 1985. This is, again, if you had a Mount Rushmore from most people's perspective in the 80s, particularly teenage movies, but maybe 80s movies in general, this is probably going to get consideration, if nothing else. Probably a top 10 movie for most people if you talk about the 80s.
Yeah.
So from your perspective and looking back on it now or even then, we were kind of young when this came out.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's considered the classic that it is?
Oh, my God.
I think just simply because it has all the different genres of the cliques that everyone can relate to from their high school. They can find themselves in one or more of the characters. So they have a lot more invested in it.
Do you feel like do you feel like watching that's true?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you had one you could pick out and identify?
Oh,
with?
absolutely.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the fact that it was a character-based movie is what I think what draws people to it. It didn't have some of the you take like a Ferris Bueller that really liked, but it didn't. It had some kind of shtick stuff to it that was kind of silly and goofy, and I think this one stayed away from that and was really it plays out like a play.
Okay.
And I think it draws people into the characters, and I think that's what people like, and they can associate with, like what he said. You can go, oh, that was me. That was.
See, I'm gonna say this. So when this came out, I was 9. So you would have been much younger.
5.
You'd have been younger than me. You're 7, whatever it was. And so I will be just honest. I didn't even see this.
Till later
I probably
in
didn't
life.
even see it in the 80s. I probably saw this sometime in the 90s. Probably a rental at the at Blockbuster. I'm like, oh, that's one of those movies I should watch. But meanwhile, in the 80s, I had seen Ferris. I had seen 16 Candles. I will just say I've never thought of this as one of my favorite John Hughes movies, whereas everybody else will say it is. But I would watch 16 Candles, Weird Science, Ferris Bueller's. I would watch all of those before I would watch Breakfast Club. And I would say I think those 3 movies, for me, are better movies just because they're more entertaining, or I always thought that. And maybe since I was so young, had I gone to high school in the 80s, maybe I would have related a little more to this. But by the time I watched it in the 90s in high school, maybe I just didn't. Maybe I didn't identify as much as you two are saying you might have with the characters. There wasn't really one I could totally plug myself into.
I think growing up,
I think I was between a couple of the characters.
I think, like you said, I think this movie for me grew on me as I got older. Growing up, I would have been more drawn to a Weird Science, or
that was our age.
Yeah,
that made more sense.
It had boobies.
Well, yeah.
So I was drawn to the boobies.
This movie was definitely lacking in the booby
There
department.
was no boobies in this.
Yeah, I know.
So I'm like, oh,
what kind of
there's no
teenage
boobies.
comedy we got
Yep,
here?
Skip.
Skip.
But now, as I've gotten older,
But I had
there's-
older sisters, so I watched it.
Right.
Older-
I gotcha.
You
Yeah,
had some
so-
older siblings. Yeah.
So I
So you
probably
did see it.
I did see it probably when I was 7 or 8 in the 80s.
and the parts of this movie that drew me in when I was younger was Bender.
Okay.
Because he was loud and obnoxious, and he did the funny stuff.
But
and,
you were not loud and obnoxious.
but I wasn't. But he was funny in that. He was the part of this movie I think that drew me in.
Yeah.
Or Allison's character, where she's just
The hood.
strange.
Yeah.
The strangeness of it, and so anyway, that's.
Yeah. So I would just say, going into this again for the rewatch and the 40th anniversary, because it did come out this time 40 years ago. I never thought of this as one of my go-to 80s movies. If I was personally doing a top 10 80s movies, this would not,
Are you kidding
as of right
me?
now, be in my top 10 80s movies. It would not ones that I like to rewatch and that I have the most memories with. It just wouldn't.
Man, see, I'm the exact opposite.
This would be
Of the 80s movies of all the movies that we've reviewed so far, I think this is my favorite.
Really?
Absolutely.
Ghostbusters?
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely.
I think this one is one of my. I do like this. I think it's one of my favorite John Hughes movies.
And
I like it
and
more than
after
Weird
watching,
Science
I hadn't
and-
watched it in a long time, and now watching it as an adult, there's some things that resonated now as an adult that I never picked up on. And actually, even watching it the first time and then watching it on my second watch, I just didn't take any notes. I was done, and I just watched it, and some things hit me a little different than it did when I was younger.
Well, what I'm going to
I think
say
it
is
made it even better to me.
Well, what I'm going to say is most of the movies we do, there's a fun element to the movie. And when I'm thinking of a John Hughes movie, it seems like you should have a fun element to the movie. Yeah. We get to poke fun and do all this. Right. This movie's much darker than I remember it being as a kid. Yeah. And when you rewatch it now as an adult, some of it's really like, wow. I mean, this is not a feel-good John Hughes type of movie. Like 16 Candles, I've got laughs. I've got laughs in Ferris. I've got laughs in Weird Science.
Absolutely true.
They try to put a couple laughs in here, and it like nothing makes me laugh out loud in this movie. There's a couple like lines or something where I'm like, okay, it's like a smirk, but nothing. But there is some very sometimes disturbing actions and quotes from people that as you watch an adult, you're like, oh, wow, that's.
And I wouldn't go so much disturbing, but there was some really sad.
He brings a gun to school.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
it was a flare gun.
So we can, So I got that. It's a flare gun, but it's the symbolism that he was bringing a weapon to school, and he's talking about suicide.
Right, and but we'll get too much into it. But there was a quote at the beginning that said, "I hate Mondays." Did you read up on that?
No.
That quote is from there was a school shooting in the 80s, and there was a mass school shooting, and when they asked her why she did it, the girl did it.
She didn't like Mondays.
She said, I didn't like Mondays.
And it was
and I was bored.
It was a girl?
And she did it was a mass shooting in the 80s. I didn't know anything about it. Mm-hmm. But there was some moments in this movie that were super sad to me. Like after watching it as an adult, like, and we'll talk more about it later. But it isn't as uplifting and as funny as I think I remembered it being. And now watching it as an adult with a critical eye versus just watching in the background. I watched it and I listened to people, and I was watching people, and
I think it's almost not funny at all.
It is a very darker movie.
It has a lot of dark elements.
And they try at the end to try to make it seem like it's light, but none of those kids' problems have gone away. They all have the same problems.
Absolutely.
No, and we're going to discuss that towards the end of this, because evaluating it now as an older person, I take issue with the end of this movie.
Oh, yeah.
I would say now the end almost, it doesn't 100%, but it spoils parts of what they built in the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
For me, how they, and I don't know, I tried to research it and find it. I just couldn't find anywhere, but I don't know if that was more of the studio was kind of telling John Hughes, we got to tie this thing off, or we need more of a happy ending type of thing,
I found
or
a quote
what.
that even Molly Ringwald didn't like the ending.
No.
She looks back now on it and how that all ended, and she's not.
To be fair, Molly Ringwald doesn't like a few things. She says she's very appreciative for the movie. Most of it, she understands the impact. She did write a piece a couple years ago, I think right before the pandemic, about some of the problematic elements of a couple of the John Hughes movies she was in. Mm-hmm. Now, people took that as she was bashing John Hughes, and she says, I wasn't. I'm thankful for everything he gave me. But looking back on it, there were weird parts. We discussed that in 16 Candles. Yeah. Remember when the dad was supposed to ask her about her underwear, and her mom had to intervene and say, no dad would ask a daughter that. That's super creepy. Yeah. So, but that was in a John Hughes script. Yeah. And then you have some things in this movie that kind of made her uncomfortable and things like that. And again, the mom had to step in. Mm-hmm. And so she looks back on a few of these where it's like, it was, it was the 80s only goes so far of, and in some of this, even though it was the 80s, it probably still wasn't that cool.
Yeah, the excuse of it was the 80s and a product of its time still doesn't excuse.
Well, I mean, the perfect example is when he's under the desk. Mm-hmm. And by the way, that's not her.
I know.
Because she was underage, so they weren't allowed to
16,
to shoot her.
But the idea that it was still an older person.
Yes.
But it was supposed to be her.
Correct. So well, and like she said, everyone assumes it is her. Yeah. And so that was a super uncomfortable situation. Yeah. She didn't want to shoot that scene, but John Hughes left it in.
Well, what does he say? He says, let's lock the doors and we're going to impregnate.
There's a lot of problems. Like there's, we can discuss that. I have some later on, which he may be one of the favorite characters for people. I have issues with Bender. I have a lot of issues with Bender. So I technically I kind of have issues with all the characters at some point. It's just a matter of how you want to look at it. Yeah. So, but I just don't. This is a good movie. Mm-hmm. Like I understand the good parts. I wouldn't say it's a super rewatchable movie all the time. Mm-hmm. Like I don't like. I'm not sitting around on a Sunday and go, let's watch The Breakfast Club. Mm-hmm. But I will say, let's watch Weird Science or let's watch Ferris Bueller or. So, but that's just me. Yeah. I'm sure there's lots of people that are like, oh no. And I can imagine if you were in high school in the 80s, say you're a sophomore, junior in high school, and you saw this for the first time. Mm-hmm. Maybe that makes more sense. Yeah. Maybe their actions tie a little more. But by the 90s, I mean, some of the things they were talking about were still a little relevant, but just, I don't know, the movie looked old and it was kind of like, okay, so. Yeah. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
It sounds like you two are going to disagree with me today, which is always fun.
Yeah.
So
let's give it a try.
We always like to have a good time. And we always like to butt heads, if you will.
Sure. You're a real butthead.
Never butted.
Real butthead. Yeah. I don't know. You've thrown some shade on Cocktail in the past.
Oh, absolutely.
Some shade on over the top.
I'm not throwing shade.
Not happy with either.
I'm handing it to you.
I'm served on a silver platter.
I'm going to wrap it in a bow and I'm going to put a little label on it that goes,
here's all the shade.
Here's your stupid movie in a box.
So, before we get into the other parts, I did read a fan theory thing. I think it's a fan theory, but they said that, at the beginning of the movie, Anthony Michael Hall, Brian, his character's Brian, he's doing the voiceover of Saturday, March whatever, 1984, blah, blah, blah. Yep. And then at the end, he also does the voiceover of
Yes.
the end of the thing. So what the fan theory is, this whole day is from Brian's perspective. This is his essay that he wrote for the group. Everything that happens in the movie, he starts by reading it, ends by reading it, and the middle part that you see is what he wrote as the essay. So the movie is the essay from Brian's opinion and perspective the whole day.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I think it totally works. And it would totally make sense because I think that's how Hughes worked, I think.
Possibly.
Like with Ferris Bueller. The idea that Ferris Bueller was his alter ego or whatever.
Yeah.
I like that.
Or possibly in Cameron's imagination.
Yeah, it was Cameron. That's what I mean. It's Cameron's imagination. It's what Cameron wanted to be.
Well, that's not confirmed.
But he couldn't be.
But
you know,
that's been a fan theory too.
Totally works.
Yes, some people have that.
So
So
I think that's what John Hughes was good at is taking the human experience and turning it into a story. And he was a good storyteller. And I like his movies. So.
Yeah. So you do think at the end of the day this is a good story? Because you're a big story guy.
I do. I think this is a great story.
Really?
I think it's a great movie. Yeah.
I don't think it's a great story, but that's fine.
I do.
All right.
I do.
Well,
there you go.
Do you feel how realistic do you feel this day event is?
Realistically, no. But I think
not in today's culture because I don't even think there is a Saturday detention.
Nobody even does Saturday detention.
I did have Saturday detention when I was in high school.
Yeah,
it was only 4 hours long.
I never had it.
Did you have to go to it?
I did. I had to go.
Was it like this?
I got it for the most ridiculous reason
What
possible.
happens if you don't go?
I think you get it again.
You get it again.
Yeah.
So you just don't
But
go.
I got it because I didn't bring my clothes for PE.
Oh,
Hey, that was a big deal in high school.
I missed it 3 times, and third time Saturday school.
We had, well, at least I had, but you should have had too. We had PE in high school. You had to take it. Yeah. Well, the main PE teacher, Mrs. Hatlid, was her name.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, she had the same Adidas jumpsuit, a sweatsuit, in 37 colors.
Yeah.
Like she'd wear a different color every day.
She'd been there for years.
Yeah. She was like an 80-year-old, but she could play ping pong. Like
she could
nobody's
play ping
business.
pong. Good.
You guys had
And
ping
badminton.
pong?
No one's business.
Badminton.
And badminton.
She was a badminton fiend.
Yeah, they used to line up like 20 ping pong tables.
No joke.
And wherever you start, if you win, you go to the right. If you lose, you go left. And if you make it all the way to the end at the right, you're on the champion table. And
That's
you
what
just
she did
hold
with
that.
badminton, too.
Yeah, did the same thing with badminton.
She'd always end up top.
But she would hang out at that first table, and you had to beat her. And she was amazing.
Yeah, she'd kick ass.
She'd just stand there, go deep, deep, deep. You're done. Didn't matter how athletic you were.
You didn't mess
Stand
with
there and
Hatlin.
Forrest Gump it.
Man, I hadn't
But
thought
anyway,
about Miss Hatlin in a long time.
if you didn't dress down, she got very angry. Like she would send you to the office, all these things. So why aren't you dressed down? Because we had a lot of girls that didn't want to dress down because they would get sweaty and then their makeup would get messed, their hair, and it's a day thing. They didn't want to do it, and we had PE at like 9 a.m. It's just gonna screw up the whole rest of the
whole
day.
Yeah.
And so, but she would be like, "No, you go dress down. Well, I didn't bring clothes. Go to the office."
There's
Like,
a name
she
I
was,
thought would never make
Come
the
up on the
podcast.
pod?
What's that?
Mrs. Hatlin.
Good for her.
I haven't thought about her in 40 years.
Well, if you're listening, ma'am,
I don't think.
thanks for your PE guidance.
I think she passed away.
I'm gonna
PE
assume.
guidance.
I'm gonna assume that's a big
I
possibility.
think she passed away.
Because even if she was being nice in her 40s,
Oh, yeah. She wasn't in her 40s.
I think she was older than that.
She was
yeah.
much older.
So
Yeah.
she, but she had that Adidas jumpsuit and so many colors: pink, purple,
many colors.
blue, yellow. Every time it'd be a different color. So she was the typical. It was that Adidas sweatsuit with a whistle, and she definitely had the same haircut that I did for no reason.
Nice.
Yeah, she was.
So anyway, but yeah, Miss Hatlett, thanks again for all your PE wisdom.
That's right.
We wouldn't have learned anything about ping pong and badminton without her.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. We think.
Maybe.
Let's not jump to that conclusion.
Could be kicking along.
We get an email. Excuse
90s,
me.
still
like 110.
ping ponging at the old folks' home.
I was about to
Probably
say, yeah, we get an email. Excuse me. I'll still kick your ass in ping pong.
I'll still pong you to death.
I got the
if anybody
suits.
can confirm.
I got the suits in the
I
closet.
got the suits in the closet.
I'll dust off the paddle on your ass.
Don't know her first name. Her first name had to be like Esther or something.
No, it was,
right? Yeah, it had to be something along those lines. So
or something like that.
Estelle.
I knew that.
Estelle, definitely an Estelle,
Yeah.
something like that. So, all right, well, we're messing with the bull this week and getting the horns as we head back 40 years to kick it in detention with the Breakfast Club. My favorite thing about the Breakfast Club is they never eat breakfast. So
They do not. They do not eat breakfast.
there is no breakfast involved, but we will be
This is true.
the Breakfast Club.
This
So,
is true.
well, before we begin our stroll further down memory lane, as he likes to do about this time, the Movie Hound is going to share the important deets of the movie with us. So hit us with those deets.
All right, here come the deets. Breakfast Club, as we said, was released 40 years ago on February 15th, 1985, and it is an American teen comedy or coming-of-age comedy drama film. It's a lot of words.
It is.
Written, produced, and directed by Mr. John Hughes. It stars Paul Gleason and the Brat Pack members Emilio Estevez, Anthony Michael Hall, Judd Nelson, Molly Ringwald, and Ali Sheedy. The Breakfast Club was made on a budget of just $1 million and made over $51 million at the box office. The Breakfast Club also includes Billboard's Hot 100's #1 hit, Don't You, parentheticals, Forget About Me, performed by Simple Minds. The movie has a certified fresh Rotten Tomatoes critics tomato meter score of 86% and an audience popcorn meter score even higher at 92. Now, Rob, as David goes to remove the duct tape you forcibly placed on his hairy buns, can you please tell us about this movie in a segment we call...
Ouch, baby. You're doing some like
I don't know. I was voguing.
some interpretive dance.
Yes, I was. It's the interpretive
It is.
dance section of the show. Yes.
That's where we dance.
My chair keeps falling.
Yeah, you're having some trouble over there.
Hey, so back of the box is says Breakfast Club. They were 5 teenage students with nothing in common, faced with spending a Saturday detention together in their high school library. At 7 a.m., they had nothing to say, but by 4 p.m., they had bared.
Yeah.
Bared.
Same word.
I learned to read.
Yeah.
They bared their souls to each other and became good friends. John Hughes, creator of the critically acclaimed 16 Candles, wrote, directed, and produced this hilarious and often touching comedy starring 5 of today's hottest young actors, Emilio Estevez, Anthony Michael Hall, Judd Nelson, Molly Ringwald, and Ali Sheedy. To the outside world, they were simply the jock, the brain, the criminal, the princess, and the kook. But to each other, they would always be the Breakfast Club.
Oh, great.
Color, 1 hour, 32 minutes. Rated R.
Good length. Can't argue with an hour and a half.
I like the length. It's good.
I think for the type of movie it is, if it's longer than an hour and a half, it would start to get because there's not a lot of action.
No.
So if you're doing that for 2 hours, that might start to create a problem.
Yeah, you got
so. But
you can only roam the hall so many times.
They did cut some stuff out of this movie that would have lengthened the movie. There was
lots of stuff, yeah.
Some weird stuff that, again, John Hughes. Anyway,
John Hughes got some weird stuff.
Yeah, what are you going to do? So you said it was only $1 million to make.
That's right.
That means. Do you realize? Okay, so
well, it's not like they paid a lot of money for the actors.
So that's what I'm getting at. So they would have paid the actors nothing. I'm just thinking about when you make a whole movie, you have to pay everybody that works behind the cameras. So you got cameramen, you got boom guys, you got craft services. You got I don't even know.
85, everyone's making scale on
That's
a
what I'm saying.
small.
What are they making? And then you got the actors. What are you paying them? I mean, I couldn't find it, but I would like to know what they actually got paid. Like $40,000 or to just make it on $1 million seems crazy.
Yeah.
So I guess they didn't have to build much sets. They just filmed.
I was going to say the only thing they built was they built the library and a gym because the library of the school was too small to film in.
Too small. It is a good library though. Yeah. You got a book open. What's happening over here?
He's looking at
Mrs. Hatfield's name. Hatlett.
Hatlett.
Her first name?
Yes.
Mary Linda.
Mary Linda. We were way off.
Yeah.
I thought for sure an Estelle made sense.
Maybe Estelle was
Bertha
her mother
or something. Yeah.
My ADD.
Did she
look?
Look,
he's going down memory lane in a yearbook here.
He's pulled out a yearbook. Did she look exactly like I remember she looked?
Is she wearing the Adidas suit in the
for the picture?
She doesn't look as old as I remember.
Yeah.
So she was like 35.
Yeah, she was like,
She's still teaching, by the way.
Teaching.
I'm sorry.
You R.I.P. her.
She is not of retirement age yet.
She was not as old as I remember.
She is probably only 60 and foxy.
She felt old to us. So
she was 28
she
years
was not.
old.
Yeah,
she's alive.
She's definitely alive.
She's definitely
You
alive.
better issue some sort of
Unless
public
she had
apology.
some unforeseen circumstances, she is still kicking.
Well,
anyway.
Rob, as
no
much
R.I.P. then.
As much as our fans like you going through your yearbook
in the middle
of this podcast.
I mean, hey, whatever.
So sorry about that, Mary Lynn. I did not R.I.P. you. That was
me.
Rob McCracken, care of.
She was old.
She was not. So
To a 14-year-old,
Yeah.
she
I'm not
was
even thinking.
ancient.
Was I thinking of somebody
I
else?
think you need to write a letter. Nope, no more book.
No
You
more
can
book.
you can look at the book
Do you want me to
after
take
the
the book from you?
podcast. Yeah, we'll have to take it away.
We'll go
so.
down memory lane. You can explain it on the next one.
All right.
All right. Well, this
Anyway.
movie only cost $1 million.
That's crazy.
And again, obviously, they didn't have to pay the cast very much. Speaking of the cast, what do we think of the casting choices in this movie?
Perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Oh,
I do like them all.
couldn't have done anything different, huh?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I love it.
Nice. Well, did you find any information out on the casting? Was
There was lots.
Lots.
the five that are in the movie, the main 5 kids, were they the slam dunks? Like they were the ones from start
I
to finish?
can't imagine
say-
anybody else doing it, but
Anthony Michael Hall was the slam dunk at the
He
very
was.
beginning because he's the one that basically didn't have anybody else try out for.
lots of people auditioned for Bender. I
Yeah.
found that.
Nick Cage.
Nick Cage was considered.
I would have liked Nick Cage as Bender. That would have been fun.
Wow.
I like Emilio Estevez was originally supposed to be Bender,
Yes.
Yeah.
but then
I
they
did saw
switched
that.
him over because they couldn't find anybody that was like the all-American jock.
Well, I also thought I read that John Hughes said he didn't think Emilio could have a mean streak,
Yeah.
like mean enough for that Bender character.
I know he said that about John Cusack.
That's
'Cause
definitely
Cusack,
true.
Yeah,
Cusack
yeah,
originally
he
had
was
Bender
too
also.
nice.
And
I
they're like,
actually
no.
I actually saw a YouTube video. It was Ali Sheedy and Molly Ringwald doing an interview, and like I don't know, 10 years ago, and they said John Cusack was actually cast as
Yeah.
Bender, and Molly Ringwald's story is that they cast her and his sister. They had cast them both for Breakfast Club, and then they wrote them parts in 16 Candles. And when they started filming 16 Candles, it conflicted. They couldn't do both, is what Molly Ringwald said. And then that's why they replaced Cusack over on Breakfast Club. But that's Molly Ringwald's take on it. I don't know how all that goes.
There you go.
So the one I found interesting was the Judd Nelson situation. John Hughes, I watched a video, him talking about when Judd Nelson auditioned for the part.
Yep.
They said he flew in that day. He showed up late, like really late to the interview.
Wore what he wore in the movie.
In the movie.
Correct. Wore what he wore in the movie. Walked in, and it was John Hughes and Anthony Michael Hall were sitting in there. He came in and he read a bunch of stuff. They said he started riffing and actually talking to Anthony Michael Hall like he was Brian. And then he was like, thanks, walked out the door and had to get on
I
a
got to
plane.
catch a flight. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Hughes said he turned to Michael Hall and said, I think that's the guy.
That's our guy.
So, okay. And Michael Hall was like, yeah, he seemed like a nice guy. That's what he said.
And then
That's what he
everybody
said he
hated
said.
him the rest of the time.
That's what
Hey,
it seems
he
like.
stayed in character the whole time.
Yeah.
Super, like he's one of those super meta actor
Yeah,
guys.
Yeah.
And then it's funny, they were interviewing him about getting ready for this movie. And you saw like he went to school for 2 weeks in Chicago because he said he didn't know he went to a super elite private school on the East Coast. So he didn't know what it was like to go to a public school.
Yeah, he'd go buy beer and
So-
stuff.
Oh, yeah,
With
he would
his
buy-
fake ID. And then he would
Well, he was like
have-
23.
Yeah, he'd have people drop him off at the hotel.
Yeah.
And when people say, "Oh, what are you doing living here?" He said that his dad was in the penitentiary.
Do you think they had
And
to go?
He was visiting his dad. He was waiting for his dad.
Do you think they had to go to the admin and did he have to ask to be in the school? You can't just wander around school, right?
It was the 80s.
Maybe 85. You can just,
You can do whatever.
hey, I'm a new kid in class. You look pretty old.
I know.
Tried out for the baseball team and made it. Tried out.
I saw Rick Moranis and,
was originally
oh.
cast
and
as
Bill
the-
Murray for Carl. They were
Rick
both-
Moranis actually came to set
Yeah.
as,
but
and
he
then
played a different
he
got
played it as like a
cast.
crazy Russian guy.
Russian.
Yep.
That's what-
Yeah, and you're like, nope, you got to go.
No, you-
Well, and they even said they told him, we need you to do this normal. And he said he wouldn't back off the Russian thing. No, I have to do it this way. And they're like, it doesn't make sense. Like, anyway, so yeah, he actually had the part. And then they fell back on the guy who played Carl because John Hughes knew him from 16 Candles.
From
'Cause
everything else.
He was the bow hunk.
He was the Mohawk. That's right.
So I've got Robin Wright,
I saw that. For,
Jodie
for Claire.
Foster, Diane Lane, and Laura Dern, all for Claire.
had
Ringwald said in an interview she thought for sure Robin Wright was going to get the part. And so that's why, so originally they had her try out for Ali Sheedy's part, Molly Ringwald, but she fought and told John Hughes, I want to do the Claire part because she was technically in high school while they were filming this movie. And she said she's nothing like the Claire character, and so she wanted to play that part.
Yeah.
And so, but she said at first she thought for sure once she saw Robin Wright audition that Robin was going to get it over her. But then John Hughes went with what was familiar and good,
Yeah.
and he knew it would work. So
I saw that Jim Carrey.
Yeah, Jim Carrey, Matthew Broderick. Oh, wait, no, that's
Yeah.
a different guy.
Well,
Jim
Broderick
Carrey,
for
Nick Cage, and Alan Ruck I had
Yep.
for Bender.
Yeah. Oh, Alan Ruck. I didn't see that one.
And then for Andrew, I had Michael J. Fox, Matthew Broderick, Tom Cruise, Rob Lowe.
Rob Lowe.
Yeah.
Saw Brooke Shields for Allison.
Yep.
Was another.
That's a good one.
Yep.
Brooke Shields?
Yeah.
I don't buy her
Jodie Foster for Claire.
as Alice. Yeah,
That would have been weird.
I think so.
Yeah.
So I did because I couldn't find my own. I couldn't find anything on the internet that I liked. I asked ChatGPT if you were to cast this in '85 and we didn't have the folks we had, who would play the parts? And ChatGPT came up with some wild answers. So the Andrew Clark part for the athlete.
Okay.
Tom Cruise. Now, I don't hate that. That could have worked.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he's athletic and he's good looking, so that works.
Well, and he's dramatic enough that
He is. Bender, ChatGPT went with Michael J. Fox. I don't.
Who's even smaller. And
Yeah, I
supposed
don't
to be
get
the-
that. Yeah,
the
I
criminal.
didn't. No. That one didn't make a lot of sense to me.
You guys.
So, for Claire, they said Molly Ringwald should play Claire. So ChatGPT's all in on Molly
That's
Ringwald.
right. Nobody else could play
nobody
it.
else.
And for Brian the Brain, Anthony Michael Hall. So again, ChatGPT's like, nope, I don't have a better answer.
Even the computer gets tired and
Yeah.
said, just leave these two in
Just
there.
leave them in there.
That's so funny.
But Allison Reynolds, the basket case, Winona Ryder is what they came up with. So I don't love that.
I don't
but
either.
That's fine.
Was
No.
she old
So-
enough then? I don't know.
I think you know who could have been good.
I'm obviously not good at my age. I thought Mrs. Hatlett
Yeah,
was
I know.
92.
Not good with you.
And I look at the picture and she's younger than I am now.
I think if you're going to use an 80s girl to play that, I think you know who would have been really good as Claire if you're going for the snarky, popular. I think because she's young then, I think Demi Moore would have been, because she's 85 is St. Elmo's Fire Time and all that. She's pretty, she could be really snippy, the popular girl.
Yeah.
I think she could have been good as Claire too. So that would have been my vote for that. But I don't have, I was racking my brain on Bender. I think they got the right person to play that part. I couldn't think of any other super slimy. I thought maybe the dude, what's the dude's name? I didn't write it down. Eric. He was the guy who was originally supposed to be in Back to the Future. Stoltz.
Yeah.
I thought maybe Eric Stoltz because he's kind of a weird guy and he's a little. Maybe Crispin Glover would have been great as Bender, right?
Great one on that one.
Hey, Claire.
Get your damn hands off.
Sushi. So, all right. Well, it turned out cast worked out well.
Yeah.
Vice principal was good. They got a real jerk to play.
Yeah.
I don't think Paul Gleason's probably a jerk in real life, but he plays a
He
good
plays
jerk
a good one, yes.
on TV. And I've got some thoughts on him as far as his behavior. But I'll let the actual principal in the studio today advise us on whether or not he's doing
He's
what he's
acting
supposed
professional
to.
the entire day.
So interesting facts about the movie. I've got original title was The Lunch Bunch.
Because they do eat lunch.
They do eat lunch. But someone told John Hughes that's dumb, and so then they came up with the Breakfast Club.
Well, I had the Lunch Bunch and the Library Revolution.
Both bad.
Both really
So
bad.
whoever
I heard the Breakfast Club was a name that one of the creators, like, they had a detention club, and that's what
good.
it was called.
Yeah.
whoever recommended it, great job by them.
Yeah.
Because if you would have put a poster out that said Lunch Bunch, I think teenagers have been like, I'm not watching that.
I'm not watching that.
That doesn't look good. So, let's see. You got any interest? You guys got some interesting facts? Share some stuff you found out about the
I
movie.
got that the film was shot in sequence. I thought that was
nice.
interesting.
And I
A
like
lot
how
of times-
earlier you said that it was more like a play, and that's how they actually rehearsed it, was like a play.
And that's funny. I
beforehand.
wrote that in my notes. I go, this feels like a play. Even the way they walk in after being dropped off in the car and they walk in the library and you meet each character one at a time as they sit. And I was like, oh, this is them walking on stage. I could totally see it. And then I read it in the notes that they practiced multiple times before they filmed as like it was a play.
Nice.
And then it got rewritten later. Like they rewrote it and produced it so that
as a play.
as play, so that high schools could reproduce it for their high schools and stuff.
That's
for
good.
Their drama clubs and stuff.
And I liked how they also shot it in order, where most movies don't do that. So
That's
all
what
the
I thought.
all the actor kids were like, "This is how movies are done." They were surprised when they went to other movies, and it didn't happen that way.
It's not how it's done.
Yeah,
I saw that Judd Nelson was the last to be cast.
Yeah.
We talked about
Well, he was late.
he was like,
So he was late to the audition.
true.
So you're going to like this, Rob. So remember the New York Times bashed it.
Yeah.
That wasn't good.
Yeah.
Well, 10 years later, New York Times
they're going to eat their words.
rewrote a thing and listed it one of its best 1,000 movies ever. So then the New York Times came back and said, so either
We're
it's a different
sorry.
guy or I'm not sure. So, and then Entertainment Weekly ranked it #1 on its list of the 50 best high school movies
No.
of all time.
Agreed.
Of all
So
time.
I would disagree. We've had that conversation already.
right.
There's other high school. I would have Ferris Bueller above this. That's a high school movie. So I don't know how you classify a high school movie. Does it have to take place in the high school? I don't think so. I think it just has to do with high school kids.
Yeah.
So I would have Ferris Bueller above it. I'd have 16 Candles above it. So yeah, you can all you want. That's the answer.
So, I don't know.
Put into the National Film Registry by Library of Congress, 2016. Culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant, Rob.
Yeah.
So I guess they know.
They know.
They disagree with me also.
I had with
I'm a lone wolf on this one.
I know. Well, I think you're gonna find not very often. I think you're gonna get some feedback on that. With only 7 characters in the film,
That not my top 10?
I think people are gonna
Be
disagree
upset
with you.
All right.
With only 7 characters in the film, or 11 if you count the parents and Brian's younger sister, the film has one of the least number of characters in movie history.
Which is why it only costs $1 million. We don't have to pay anybody.
That's right.
And when the director's one of the parents,
Yes.
you don't have to pay that guy.
And when Brian's mom is actually his mom.
Yes.
And
That's
sister
and
is
actually
actually
his
his
mom
sister.
and his sister.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So, but you know who Emilio Estevez's dad is?
Oh yeah. Why do I know him? Yeah, he's been in a lot of things. Character actor.
Yeah.
He's the uncle in Cocktail. He's the
He
one.
is.
He's the one that he's Flanagan's uncle.
He is Flanagan.
It all ties together. That's what it is.
I didn't write it down, but I did find a note in here. We talked about the 6 degrees of separation with Kevin
Well,
Bacon.
you're
There was
be-
a whole thing.
Yeah, but
And
you're
I was
beating
like,
me to it
yeah.
because here's my theory, right? You know, this is what. So that's Emilio Estevez's dad, right?
Yeah.
Well, Emilio goes off to college to wrestle. Yeah, he goes off to wrestle, and because Emilio's out of the
off to
house,
wrestle.
because Emilio's out of the
Yeah.
house, the only thing the parents had in common was the wrestling.
Yeah.
So they get a divorce.
Yeah.
He moves to New York, opens a bar, and then Emilio's cousin, Tom Cruise, Flanagan, comes back. Meets up with his uncle, who's Emilio's dad.
you
It
go.
all ties together.
There you
So,
go. Yeah.
It's
so
not well. It doesn't
Flanagan,
tie together well.
Flanagan and Andrew Clark, cousins. That's how it works.
Okay. All right.
So I think it works.
think
I
that's-
think it's seamless.
All right.
So it doesn't matter.
Not a
So
seam in there.
here's something I want. This is an interesting fact. It's just something I want. So in the movie, we of course Carl's our janitor. He's been a janitor for 8 years.
Uh-huh.
He says. At the beginning of the pic, they show a picture of Carl.
Yeah, Man of the Year.
Man of the Year.
Man of the Year in 1960. I want this backstory. What happened, Carl? Because if you're Man of the Year, that's like valedictorian something.
He mastered
What
the custodial
happened?
arts.
No. You don't master that when you're Man of the Year. You master that when you're Bender.
Yeah.
All right, that's what happens. So I just want the Carl backstory. How did we get to this point, Carl?
Well, he's a bohunk.
He's
Yeah.
and by the way, what custodian? I work in a school district. They're not working on Saturdays.
They-
That's so funny.
They do not.
My wife was watching
no
it with me, and
Saturday.
she goes, "Why is he working on a Saturday?"
They're not coming
He's
in
going
on
through
Saturday.
lockers.
So I can
That's
tell
his
you
time to go
two
through kids' lockers.
reasons he's not working on Saturday. One, they're not going to work on Saturday. Two, the district doesn't want to pay a sixth day of the week to have
That's right.
the custodian in at work. So yeah, so him dumping trash. And where the trash? Shouldn't that have been done Friday? Why is there
It
trash
really
even
should've.
in the library?
Yep.
So I don't know.
Did you
No
see
fun.
the actor for the John Capellos? When he came onto set, he was joking with the cast, and he came on and goes, "No, I don't want any of you young actors overdoing the intensity." And he started laughing and joking that Martin Sheen had a serious heart attack on Apocalypse Now.
Yeah,
And
not
'cause
knowing.
not knowing that Emilio Estevez was his son. Emilio was pissed and walked out.
How could you not know?
I don't know.
The
I
first
thought
time
that
you
too.
look
The
at
last
Emilio
names are
Estevez,
different. I mean,
I
geez.
understand that, but you look at him and you go, oh.
Well, and then I read years later he was telling Charlie Sheen that on he was
Yeah,
like
and-
on the West Wing or whatever.
Thought it was funny.
And he goes, "Yeah, that's a funny story."
By the way, when I said I couldn't find anybody, if you took the Charlie Sheen character from Ferris Bueller, he could have been Bender.
Yeah.
He could have done that,
that
too.
is
That's
true.
good.
He could have
Yeah.
done that too.
Yeah.
So if you
I
take
agree.
that character, that's Bender. Basically, he's Bender in Ferris Bueller.
He's Bender
It's the
that
same
looked like
thing.
he was on a Bender.
Yeah. Or he's like, you know what he is? Because that's all in the same area.
Uh-huh.
He's like one of Bender's friends where you don't talk about my friends.
Might be Bender's brother.
That's one of Bender's
Yeah.
friends. Older
Yeah.
brother.
Yeah.
There you go.
Don't look at my friends.
You don't talk about my friends.
We've talked about it in like Ferris Bueller, but Hughes has a thing with cars in his movies.
He
and
does.
license plates.
Here
So
it
most of the
comes.
kids are brought. Their cars match their personality. So
Yeah.
Claire comes in a BMW.
Yep.
Brian shows up in a Dodge Aries, and Andrew comes in a Bronco 2.
Yes.
Allison shows up in a pretty sweet Cadillac Seville, and then their license plates are usually customized. So Brian's was EMC squared, because he's a math guy.
He is.
Just so you guys, yeah.
He's in a math club.
he's
in
the
case I
brain.
need to explain that.
He's the brain.
The license plate on Emilio Estevez's car was Ohio State.
Beautiful.
Because
He's going to be a Buckeye.
He's going to go wrestle at Ohio State. But
perfect. And Bender has no car.
and
Bender just
comes
walks
out.
across the street.
He just walks across the street. I'd like to know where he lived. You think he took a bus to that spot? Because the way they play Bender up, if you look at the houses around the school, Bender's not living in that neighborhood.
In those, yeah.
Yeah, so he must have took a bus and then walked across.
Yeah,
He was from the other side of the tracks.
You know where he lives? He lives in that part of town in Pretty in Pink where Molly Ringwald lived with her dad in Pretty in Pink. That's where Bender's 2 houses down from that character.
He lives in Dogtown.
Yeah, it all ties together. So I will say, again, not an interesting fact, just something I felt going through this movie. The soundtrack. Now, you have the Simple Minds song.
Yeah.
Don't Forget About Me. Great song.
Yeah.
Iconic 80s song. The rest of the soundtrack feels bad. Like, you're in 1985. You got access to a lot of great 80s music. This album,
for $1 million budget.
Yeah, this soundtrack could have been really solid. And if you really start going through all the tracks they have, it's not a lot of good music on. And it's nothing outside of Simple Minds. There's nothing memorable. Maybe the Library song if you want to go down that road, but really nothing else is super memorable. And it's nothing anybody like. They had lots of hit bands they could have had access to here. You know, Human League, all these things, and it's just nothing. So maybe, like you said, because of the budget, maybe they just grabbed whatever they could.
Well, and I think there was something with this movie too, where.
But I'm just saying the iconic nature of this movie and what they were trying to make it as this high school thing in '85. You really missed an opportunity. You could have had a soundtrack that like blew it out of the water.
But I think a lot of people passed on. Well, I know they did. You know, when I was reading up on the music, that song "Don't Forget About Me" was passed up by a lot of famous people.
It was
because they thought it was a throwaway movie. They didn't think it was going to be as big as it was.
Well, Simple Minds themselves said that.
Yeah, they were looking for 16 Candles.
Yeah,
because they were looking for exactly what you're saying. They were looking for 16 Candles. They were looking for a Weird Science. They were looking for a Ferris Bueller. They were looking for the entertainment. They weren't looking for the dramatic movie. This felt.
Well, and Simple Minds even said when they did agree to record it, they recorded it in like an afternoon,
and then they were like, forgot about it.
And they said they said it's going to be part of a bad movie that no one's going to see.
Yep.
And then it became the biggest song of their life.
And then did you read that the la 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 part that was left in because he didn't have words.
He didn't have words. Yeah.
So he just said la 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 with the idea that he would come back and fill it in. Never did, and left it.
It's beautiful.
And it turned into an iconic lyric.
That's musical genius, Rob. At work. Can't ever stop it, can you?
Jerks that can create stuff.
I know.
Thanks a lot, jerks.
Well, that's like, what was this movie?
Just a filler.
John Hughes wrote this screenplay in just 2 days.
Of course he did. He writes every screenplay in 2 days.
Well, it was a holiday weekend. He didn't have anything else to do. It was July
every
4th and 5th,
screenplay is
1982.
Let me write a movie about kids in a library.
He wrote Ferris Bueller in a weekend. Wrote Weird Science in a weekend.
Apparently, he just gets an idea and he works through it real fast. Yeah.
What I think is funny though is when we did Weird Science, Rob, I said he wrote it in a weekend, and you said, "Yeah, watching this, I can believe that he did that." But Breakfast Club, he wrote in a weekend. Do you think same thing?
I'm impressed. I'm impressed that he could put that much depth into a story.
Now, what we said was they did cut some stuff out of this. There was a scene I read. I didn't get to find it anywhere, but I read there's a scene where it's on a Saturday. But there's another teacher in the school. It's a female teacher, and she's swimming.
It's the gym teacher.
Gym teacher.
Swimming nude in the
She's
pool.
a swim coach.
And she's swimming naked in the pool, and Principal Vernon is watching her swimming. And they took that out. Like, he was told by multiple people, don't do that.
That was another one that Molly Ringwald said.
We
don't
Why
need
is that? Why is the swim teacher there on Saturday
I don't know.
swimming naked in a high school pool? It like that whole thing, like, this is that thing where sometimes
are okay.
Yeah, this is that thing sometimes where Hughes just writes weird stuff in. Like, everybody's like, "Oh, he's so locked into what teenagers," but he's always got to write in some odd part that you're like, "What do you like?" The dad asking about the underwear, or
there's
the swimming in this situation.
There was other parts where there was like I think a social studies teacher that was supposed to come wandering in and talk to them for a little while in the library.
He had multiple teachers that were supposed to kind of wander in, and it's Saturday. Why? You guys. You're a teacher. You were a teacher.
My best to never go in.
You're not going in on a Saturday. Like, what is happening?
We talk about that often. Early on in our career, we probably would have, and now I'm at a point where I'm like, it'll be there on Monday.
That's what I'm saying. It'll be there Monday. Don't worry about
it. That's interesting. I'm reading some of the cut scenes. One I read, it said that Many of the scenes were cut and the negative destroyed, so they
Yeah,
don't
you can't
exist
even.
anywhere.
You can't even.
But it said John Bender was not going to walk to school in the original script. He was going to be driven by his dad in a rusty tow truck
Oh, I like it.
and have a brief fight with him before his dad drives off. Bender was also tossed a bag lunch
Oh yeah, that's
with
right,
his
doesn't have
father
lunch.
saying, "You are a waste of lunch meat."
Nice.
Nice, there you go.
Yeah, it's better with no lunch. And then tow truck Rob, doesn't that tie back to
Uh-huh.
Ferris Bueller again, the
Yeah.
tow truck family?
That's right.
Anyway.
It could have
The
been
tow
the
truck
family.
All right.
Okay,
well,
and I had in my notes here. It said
there's
that
more.
there was
There's
a
more. There's always
theory
more.
that this was this factually filmed at the same high school as Ferris Bueller,
I think that some of the the
think so,
exterior
yeah.
shots.
and it said due to this film being set in the same school as Ferris Bueller's Day Off
Yeah.
and taking place in 1984, this film quite possibly takes place a year before the events of the latter film.
Correct. They all go to school together.
And it is likely that Richard Vernon is deputy to Ed Rooney.
yeah.
And the teenagers are very familiar
Holy-
with Ferris himself.
Holy crap! Imagine that at your school, Rooney and Vernon. No wonder Ferris is skipping 9 times. I wouldn't get there either.
Nine
times.
I watched that the other day, right after this movie.
Good.
It was stayed on.
It's a great
My
double
kids watched
feature.
Ferris Bueller with me. And the part with the 9 times. My daughter looks at me and she goes, "That's not very much."
It's enough. Yeah.
I go, "Yeah, it's 9 times.
a
Nobody, 9's nothing now."
That's right.
All right. Well, let's have some fun and jump into our categories. Category 1, we'll start with Kurt. This is our favorite quote of the movie. What do you got?
Starting me off here. I don't know why I find this funny, but it just fits with Brian. Andrew asked him, "Why do you need a fake ID for?" when they're discussing his fake ID.
It's true.
And this was his just honest reply. It was completely made up on the spot.
This is the worst fake ID I've ever seen. You realize you made yourself 68? I know. I goofed it. What do you need a fake ID for? So I can vote.
So I can vote.
So I can vote.
I know.
I don't know. He might
was
believe
dead
that.
serious.
Yeah, he might
No,
believe
he
that.
did.
Dead
was
serious.
dead
Yeah,
serious.
that's
Yeah.
why he did it. So I
That's
can
why he
vote.
did it.
So
So-
what do you make himself
Yeah.
like 69 or something
Yeah.
like that on his ID? I don't know why it just hits me. It's just the delivery. So I can vote.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
So what do you got, Rob?
Mine's a lot darker than that. It's the Ali Sheedy's character, Allison, when she says, "When you grow up, your heart dies."
My God, are we gonna be like our parents?
Not me. Ever. It's unavoidable. Just happens. What happens? When you grow up, your heart dies.
Who cares?
I care.
Dies.
That is my quote as well.
I
Wow.
just that
You guys
I,
are heartless.
I
We
hadn't.
are.
I hadn't.
Well, and you didn't go far enough. So
Yeah, there's more. She
what
has
I
more
like
before and
is
after it.
your heart dies, and then Bender goes, "Who cares?" And she
Says,
says,
"I do."
"I care."
Oh, yeah, I care.
I agree with you. I watched that, and that is my favorite quote of the movie, and it's not funny.
No.
It's really like it actually hits a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think that's the best quote of the movie. So
I kind of tied it in with it's a really dumb connection, but in the Polar Express where the bell doesn't ring anymore.
yeah,
It's that same idea that I think
becoming an adult.
Yes, and so I found this quote. It said, "The Breakfast Club is rightly proclaimed as one of the truest films about adolescence ever made, but Carl and Dick Vernon remind us that it was written from the perspective of an adult. I always thought the film's theme song, Simple Minds, Don't You Forget About Me, was a plea for the clubbers, whatever, not to forget each other and the bond they forged when they went back to school and their separate cliques on Monday. Now I think it's a plea from the teenage self to the future adult self."
Yeah.
And I think there's that theme of Man of the Year.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
What's his backstory? That at one point he was Man of the Year, and what's his life story?
Yeah, how did we get-
what's Vernon's like?
Yeah, how did we get
Vernon's hating life.
He is.
He's not a happy guy.
Yeah. So
But I just that the second watch and I heard that line and I was like, oh my gosh, that's the movie right there.
now I did say I didn't find like laugh out loud funny, but I did have one quote I found amusing. I do like the quote you had about the fake ID, but my favorite, what I would say amusing one was when Andrew's helping him try to prop the door open. And Bender says, "How come Andrew gets to get up? If he gets up, we'll all get up.
It will be anarchy.
It'll be anarchy. So that was good.
Well, then I
good
like
delivery.
when it's off camera. You hear him go, "It's out of my hands."
It's out of my hands.
He's been a little ass.
And the screws fall out all the time is a good one too.
Yeah.
It's not
It's
bad.
an imperfect world.
It's imperfect world. So.
The one I like that made me laugh is when it's lunchtime, and then he goes, Dick, excuse me, Rich, will milk be made available to us?
So
we're extremely thirsty.
well,
sir.
it's actually pretty
The way-
amusing
the
too
way
when
he says that.
when he sits next to Brian and go, let's see what we're having for lunch today. Now he's making fun of
Milk?
Brian.
No, soup.
But soup. Yeah. So
I actually have
thanks.
that whole thing here.
Yeah. Thanks, Dad. Anyway, well, we won't jump
That's
too
apple
far.
juice. I
So
can
let's go
read.
to category 2, your favorite scene in the movie. Well, I'll just spoil it. I've got the lunch scene, starting with them talking about sushi, and then going over all the what's contained in Anthony Michael Hall's lunch, and then ending with Bender going, "Yeah, oh Dad, thanks Mom," and all that, and then he talks about getting smacked, and then he shows him the burn on his arm. Right. So that whole scene.
What are we having? Just your standard regular lunch, I guess. Milk? Soup. Oh, that's apple juice. I can read. PB&J with the crusts cut off. Well, Brian, this is a very nutritious lunch. All the food groups are represented.
So that whole scene to me that's my favorite scene in the movie. So
did I stutter?
So
I don't know.
What do you got, Kurt?
I actually went with when Bender and Andrew kind of got in the mini fight, and
Oh, yeah.
Andrew puts him on the floor. I just love when Bender gets up, and you can tell on his face, like, oh, I've just been torn down a little bit.
Yes, he has.
I've just been exposed.
I said leave her alone.
You gonna make me?
Yeah.
You and how many are your friends?
Just me. Just you and me. 2 hits. Me hitting you, you hitting the floor. Anytime you're ready, pal. I don't want to get into this with you, man. Why not?
'Cause I'd kill you.
Exposed. Yeah. And then he pulls out the knife and he stabs it into the back of the chair. I just love Allie.
Takes it.
Allison,
out of nowhere.
slowly, with her kleptoness, just stealing it.
Well, my favorite part of that is when he gets back up and, the wrestler says, well, why not? And he goes, "'Cause I kill you.
Because I kill you.
'Cause I kill you."
As he's walking all the way to
He's
the
walking
back
away.
to get away from him.
'Cause I kill you.
2 hits, man.
I do.
hit you, you hit the floor.
We used to say that in school. I remember saying it. 2 hits.
Again, I think it was a little casual. He just pulls a switchblade out. That's okay. So,
But I
all
like
right.
how Allison was, okay, I'm going to solve this problem, but I'm also stealing.
Stealing. She's good. So,
I know.
what do you got, Rob?
My favorite scene is the Carl and Richard in the
nice
down there with their feet up drinking a beer. And
That is a perfect scene for you.
I just think there's so much going on in there and talking about and then the line that he goes, Carl goes, listen, Vern, if you were 16, what would you think of you?
Yeah.
What did you want to be when you were young?
When I was a kid, I wanted to be John Lennon.
Carl, don't be a goof. I'm trying to make a serious point here. Carl, I've been teaching for 22 years. And each year, these kids get more and more arrogant.
Oh, bullshit, man. Come on, Vern. The kids haven't changed. You have. You took a teaching position because you thought it'd be fun, right? Thought you could have summer vacations off? And then you found out it was actually work. That really bummed you out.
These kids turned on me. They think I'm a big fucking joke.
Come on. Listen, Vern, if you were 16, what would you think of you, huh?
Hey, Carl.
And he's
And
right.
I was like, it's so true. And I think we as
100%.
adults forget that especially in education, we sit here and we bemoan these kids and we go, I did the same thing
exactly.
that kid just did. I did it.
Yeah.
I probably did it last week as an adult.
Exactly.
You know, and anyway.
Yeah, that's a good one. So they're coming to Jesus, if you will, to say, you know, oh, they turned on me. No, they didn't.
Well, and that one
he
line
says
where
that.
he says, you know, the idea that these kids have changed.
Yeah.
You know, and these are the kids that are going to
Take care
of us. Yeah. I hear teachers say that now.
I know.
That they're worried about it. That these are the kids that are going to take care of us. And it's like,
you were those kids. Every
generation has said that.
Same thing.
You know.
So. All right, category 3. This seems simple, I think, this week. This is our full Loja scene, so you can choose a character you think is going over the top already, or a character you just want to replace in the movie with Robert Loggia, because he makes every movie better. So, Rob, what do you got for your full Loggia?
I did Vernon.
I did too.
Seems like the easy one.
I put there's really only one option.
Yeah.
Well, the only other one I could think of was
Maybe
Andrew's dad when he drops him off.
Oh yeah, one of the parents.
He could have logied him as he dropped him off at school, kind of because he yells him in the truck a little bit.
Yeah.
You could get a Logia in there with "You got to be a winner."
Yeah, he could have.
I just want Loja. You mess with a bull.
Yeah,
you get the
one
horns.
of these. Yeah.
I feel like if you hire Loja for the Vernon part, you do have to take this up to an R because there is going to be some profanity. There's no way he's going to be able to. And I think he actually would have punched Bender. Like, he wouldn't have just threatened him.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he would have smacked him.
Yeah.
You little shit.
Yeah.
You know,
He would have backhanded him. Yeah.
So Loja's not taking that crap from
Loja's
Bender.
not putting you in a closet.
He's not.
And not beating the shit out of you.
I think Bender's getting smacked by Loja in front of the other kids to send a message.
That's right.
Not to be screwing around.
That's how it was in my day.
That's how we did it when I grew up.
Yeah, he's walking out with the screw.
Yeah.
He's getting the screw back.
Oh, yeah. He's getting it back.
Just,
What is this?
Oh, look at what I found.
All right. Category 4, plot holes, questions about the movie. I didn't have much. I kind of got one small thing because I was looking for something, but we'll start with you, Kurt.
I went with, I just have one question. Do they all get Saturday school again? Because none of them wrote the damn essay.
I agree.
And the only essay that was written was 138 words, not
shorter.
1,000.
Yeah.
I got to be honest. I feel like Vernon kind of gave up on that essay situation. He didn't seem to, because like it's not like when they left he asked for it. Hey, give me your essay.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was just trying to keep him busy and didn't really care about it in the end.
Well, that leads to my problem. Is let's talk about Vernon a little bit.
Okay.
Was he actually an administrator?
He says
What
he's a
was
vice.
his- Does he say it?
Yeah, he says he's a vice principal. He makes $31,000 a year.
That's right.
He says that.
I know how much he makes.
He said he was a vice principal.
Did he say it?
He
in the
did
movie?
say that,
Okay,
yes.
because I missed that. All right.
He says he's
Okay.
a vice principal, which I come back to. The vice principal's not going to be in on Saturday.
No.
Even if there was a
You've got
Saturday
teachers for
school,
that.
you would grab a teacher or something to be in there.
No.
He's there, and you're there for 8 hours.
Maybe he
jeez.
volunteered so he can come see the swim coach.
Well,
guess.
and the reason I ask is because, like, when he's down looking at the files, he's the principal. Why is he
should
worried?
be able to see the files.
He should have
although
full
could-
access.
he can
And
look
he's
at
all
whatever he
worried
wants.
the
He's got a
classified
girly
files.
calendar on his wall.
Yeah, Carl was asking about, and what was in that coffee mug? Or
It
this,
was so dark.
what is
Yeah.
that?
That was a dark roast.
Jiminy Christmas.
And it was like thick like oil.
Yeah.
So.
So that was, and the only other thing I had was their lunch.
Yeah.
It'd been out all day.
Oh,
By the
well,
time
I like
they eat,
how
it's been
they're-
out by, so she's eating
There we
sushi. It's
go.
been out by 5. It's been out
He's
for
got
5
the
hours.
quart of milk.
yeah.
Yeah.
Rob's always concerned with the temperatures
Yeah.
of food.
Because according to
Yeah.
Brian, at the end, so they started at 7.
yes.
They had lunch at 11:30.
Okay.
So that means that by the time she eats, Claire's raw fish has gone unrefrigerated for nearly 5 hours.
She's going to have some stomach issues.
Yeah, the U.S. Federal Food and Drug Administration warns that one should never eat seafood that has been out of the refrigerator for more than 2 hours, and that illness-causing bacteria grow quickly at temperatures over 40 degrees Fahrenheit.
Do you think there's a scenario she had a cold pack in her bag or something?
they
They
didn't have cold packs.
at the
Oh,
time.
right.
No.
So, okay.
The only person's
well,
lunch who was okay was Brian's because his was in a thermos.
there you go.
That's right. There you go.
Well, my only question was, I like it. There's no plot hole really. It takes place. It is what it is. There's nothing really fishy going on. I just have when Bender fell through the ceiling. He just walks down the steps like nothing happened. Like he fell through the ceiling to the ground and then just comes down the steps like he just walked through a door. I feel like there would have been a little more to that. Like you have a limp and Vernon didn't hear him fall through a ceiling.
Nope.
That to me seemed a little odd.
And those panels don't hold a human.
No, they don't.
And how? I one more. How did he not smell the weed? Because that hangs around. It hangs around in a room.
As soon as he walked in the room.
Yeah, because you can smell it on people.
But again, I think this goes back to by the middle of that day. I just need to get to 3 o'clock or whatever this is.
4. Yeah.
Well, and that goes back to Vernon too. How did if what she says is true? If Allison was just there because she was bored?
Yeah. Wouldn't he have a roster?
You would think.
Yeah, he would know. Like, what are you doing here?
See,
Get
she's
out of
a
here.
compulsive
Handing
liar,
out-
so I
he's-
think she actually was supposed to be there. It's what was she supposed to be there for?
Yeah, who
Yeah.
knows? She's lies the whole
That's
time.
the thing. That's
so-
why if you believe what she said,
Yeah,
then
so.
you know.
Well, all this drilling down on Vernon
Yeah.
could lead us to category 5.
Yeah.
That category is worst character or actor in the movie. I don't have a worst actor. I actually think the acting's good.
Yeah.
Even Carl at this point in this movie. But I'm going to start this. My worst character is Vernon.
So's mine.
Like, he's literally just a bad person. And
Yeah.
he's a really bad principal. Like, he threatens to punch a student. He puts them in,
Yeah.
honestly, he puts them in detention. Detention's supposed to be somewhat of a reform situation, but he's not taking any effort to ask them, like, what could they do to fix their problems or that. He just assumes they're all dumb. He says he's disappointed in Clark. And then to tell the rest of the kids in front of Bender, look at he's worthless. He'll never be. This is already a kid who gets that at home every day. As an administrator, your job is supposed to be the outlet to change some of that behavior. And he's sitting there telling them, look at this is what you're going to be if you keep doing what you're doing in 10 years. He's a joke. He's this, that, and the other. So, Bender's attitude, he gets it at home. He gets it at school. Vernon is very bad at it. Vernon should not have the job that he has. He's very poor at his
He
job.
should not be around children.
He should not. So he's bad.
I put there isn't one.
Okay.
I didn't think there was a bad character. But looking through that lens,
Yes.
I agree. As a human being,
He's terrible.
he's not a good person, and he
He
shouldn't
should be fired from
and
that
I think
job.
he knows that. I think there's an element of he knows he's done. He's tired. He doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
Right? And so anyway.
He said he's been teaching since
20
like 60-something was when
Yeah.
he would have started.
Yeah,
20-something years.
23 years, 22
So he
years,
started
yeah.
teaching in the 60s.
Yeah.
So
He still has
interesting.
7-8 years to go
Oh,
to
yeah.
hit his 30. So
Oh, yeah.
he's
Was
got
it
some time.
22? 22 years? 23 years? Something like that.
Something like
yeah. I've been in 23.
Yeah. Solid.
22, 23.
Despite
So.
Bender's comments, solid suit, though. It was
He
good.
has a great
It
suit.
was
It
good,
was
too,
good.
yeah.
It was a good suit.
And he has a,
So.
and did you find any reason why he has a limp?
No.
I looked it up. There is no reason.
Okay.
I can't find one.
Maybe he just wanted to
That's
limp.
just how he played it.
Maybe
It was
he
supposed to be his
has
character, yeah.
he has what the kids call swagger, Rob. There you go.
Or
Oh,
he's got low droopy
swagger.
balls and he's
Oh.
He's got elephantitis of the
right.
nuts.
Hey, you get to that age,
right.
they start to sink a little bit.
Do you think you could ride around? I
Gravity
think his
sucks.
balls are playing or
Yeah,
riding
no,
shotgun.
Right, shotgun.
So-
That was one of my quotes that I like.
All right.
Hey, Claire, you want to see somebody elephantitis of the nuts?
All right, that takes us to category 6.
Yeah.
Apparently, a category Rob was not prepared for today, but
I wasn't.
the most 1980s object or
No.
prop within this movie. So we'll start with you, Rob.
Damn it, I was going to say don't go with me
Yeah,
first.
we're gonna go with you first.
The only thing I can think of was the concept of Saturday school.
Okay.
That seemed like it, but then you
But
said
I went
you win.
94 when I was a
So
freshman.
94,
There you go.
so it was still around the 90s. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
So you don't have anything
the
else?
idea of, I don't know.
You have anything?
I went with a card catalog.
I have the same exact thing.
Oh, that was really good.
As
Who
he was
uses a
pulling
card
them out,
catalog?
I like
did
how
that.
he was mixing the cards up.
That's actually funny because my son was watching it
Card catalog.
and he goes,
What is that?
"What is he doing?" And then I had to
Yeah.
pause it and go, "That's actually really funny because what he's doing is he's really fucking things
Yeah.
up,
Yeah, he's messing
Messing
up the
people,
entire
yeah.
library.
like a lot."
The librarian's going to be super pissed on Monday.
Because he wasn't just moving a few; he was moving
No.
Yeah, he had
chunks.
chunk. Yeah.
Out of
Yeah.
it. You know the question she's going to get or he's going to get now with, this book's not here. It's
Yeah,
not
I
over
know.
there.
So I had to explain to my son what I go. So what's going to happen is somebody's going to go look up a book. It's not going to be there.
Yeah.
Then it'll take 100 years to get
Before
that
somebody
sorted
finds
out.
it in the right.
Yes.
That's where the real anarchy comes in. It's going to be, I got to write a paper. I got da-da-da. Anyway, so, I had the card
That's
catalog too.
nice.
Very good. There weren't a lot of other ones I really could think of.
No.
An odd thing, I was just thinking this now, and I had not written it down, but back to the questions. I did find it funny. He goes to the gyms playing basketball, and there was one basketball shoe
Yeah,
A basketball and a random shoe.
in the gym.
That's what my
'Cause
son asked.
He
goes,
leaves
"How
it
did
in
he
the
get one
gym.
shoe?"
Where'd he get one basketball shoe? Then he also leaves it in the gym.
Yeah.
Why did he even put it on? Anyway, I
And-
found it
and
odd.
Where's his other one?
Where's the other shoe?
don't know.
And was it just there?
It was
And
there
it's-
because he took one of his boots off to put it on.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. But it was just sitting in the gym, and it's his size.
Yeah.
Like it's so good. What happened there?
jumps right out of it.
Perfect.
That whole scene,
Anyway,
he
yeah.
jumps right out of it.
That was not a 10-foot rim, by the way.
No, it was not. I
Judd
believe that
Nelson's
was an
not
8-foot rim.
dunking. So, all right.
I'll get a scholarship.
Scholarship. Who does he think he is? He thinks he's Teen Wolf or something.
Yeah.
So, all right. Takes us to category 7. Your favorite song from the film or the soundtrack? Is this obvious, or Rob, do you have another entry for us? So, because I'll just tell everyone and spoil it. Don't You Forget About Me. It's the thing I think of when I think of this movie first is the song. It's one of the most 1980s songs of all time. It's that. For me, it's that.
I went with We Are Not Alone.
Oh, okay.
I like the bonding. I like
Nice.
Oh, that's so
how they
funny.
come together. Is that what you did?
Is that what you
No.
did, Rob?
No, okay, good.
I
don't want to be a Rob.
I'm completely torn because in red I have We Are Not Alone, which is the one I was going to pick. But then I put down exactly what you said. I was like, well, you'd be dumb not
It's
to
the
pick.
movie. That's the song.
Well, consider me dumb.
You are dumb, sir.
I didn't want to be dumb.
But-
I didn't want to be the obvious. I didn't want to go with the number 1 Billboard hit.
But then
Since
I went.
when?
But then I went back to We Are Not Alone because if you listen to the lyrics of We Are Not
yeah,
Alone,
I thought it went perfectly with
it
the
was
movie.
it
And that
actually
scene.
matched the film better, I think. And
Things are clear in black and white. The living color tends to dull our sight like dynamite. Just imagine my surprise when I looked into your eyes and saw through your disguise. If we dare expose our hearts, just reveal the purest parts. That's when strange sensations start to.
I think, and I read that it
Plus,
was
you had bad dancing.
that it was written by Robbie Benson, who was
Nice.
an 80s,
An 80s person.
heartthrob or whatever. You
Nice.
call it. I don't know, but yeah. So I'm going to go with We Are Not Alone.
Okay. You got a twofer on the We Are Not
I
Alone?
like it. Yeah.
Look, I'm not making this difficult. It's Simple Minds.
Yeah.
So
Simple Minds.
you guys can try to run down this little track you want to run down, but everybody knows it's Simple Minds.
Nope.
There are people in their car listening to this right now that'll be like, it's Simple Minds. What are you talking about?
Until you put on We Are Not Alone and you're
There you
bopping.
go.
All right.
Wow, this is a good song. Yeah.
Such
You're,
a-
you're doing the dance.
Such a groove. Horrible dancing.
where you
So,
get you and your boys together real close and you do the dance.
I don't understand that part at all. That's probably the worst scene in the movie, if you want my honest opinion.
When I read somewhere that John Hughes, the scene that he regrets the most is
Yeah.
the breaking the
Breaking
glass.
of the glass.
Breaking of
It's
the
like,
glass,
what's
yeah.
the point of that?
We didn't bring that up in our questions. That was really dumb. Emilio just yelled so loud the glass broke. That's
so
not
dumb.
true.
Yeah,
So,
Got powerful lungs.
he did have I did like Emilio's tank top. It was good.
I love the run dancing Emilio does.
I liked
Yeah,
his
it's-
air punching. That
Yeah.
was my favorite. Yeah.
Better running, punching, air dance scene: Footloose or Breakfast Club? Because when Kevin Bacon goes to the warehouse, I hate
Oh.
that. I hate that movie,
Yeah.
but he does a good punch dance
He
scene.
does, but
And
I
then,
don't think he
you know.
holds on to the punch dance as long
All right.
Yeah, that's
I
as
got you.
Emilio.
He
He does flips though. Emilio doesn't. He does a cartwheel.
Well,
So a little
Emilio
different.
wears tights.
He's not as for a wrestler. He doesn't have the gymnastic background that I think he should. So
Do you remember when we worked at the conference center?
oh
course.
no,
We'd
I was-
run
I was
we'd run
never-
through the hallways and sing the Air Force Ranger.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I wanna be in-
we would
good.
do that at the conference center.
As
Oh,
we
that-
were custodial arts people.
well, and I also that song that they whistle.
Oh yeah.
It's from Bridge Over River Kwai.
Yeah.
It's when they're moving the
Yeah.
prisoners of war.
Yeah.
That's what they whistle when they're marching them somewhere.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that until this movie. I've always understood what that song is because I've heard it in like pop culture, but I didn't know it was from. I've never seen River
I
Kwai.
thought it was from Snow
Yeah.
White.
At first I thought it was Hi Ho as well, and
Anytime I hear
my wife.
whistling, I think
Oh,
of the
yeah.
Seven
Oh.
Dwarfs.
So, all right. Well, that takes us to category 8. Our favorite character in the movie. Kurt, lead us off.
I went with Allison.
I went with Allison as well.
I like I think she seems to bond with everybody
Yeah.
a little bit better.
She does.
And I like the kleptoness. Like when he leaves his locker, she steals the lock. She steals everything.
Well,
from Bender.
if you want to go further, I think I think she's what bridges everybody together as the movie goes on, because her weirdness kind of bonds people together, and then she pulls back and goes no, and then she makes her comment about the heart dying and all this. I just think she's kind of the actual glue.
She's the one thing
that
everybody else agrees on.
That's correct.
She's kind of weird. But she's lovable weird.
Yeah.
Well, and I think they make a line and they make a comment in there that whatever has happened to her is worse than what happened to them. They're like, oh, it's something different.
But the thing she does with her hair on the thing is still gross to this day. I don't like it.
It's just Parmesan cheese.
Dandruff, but being that it was in her hair, it grosses me out. So.
Yeah, no, it's funny.
But what do you got, Rob?
My favorite, I think Bender.
Interesting.
I know that as a human, he's a very flawed individual.
That is true.
He's got a lot of what we call aces.
Yes, he does. And I think maybe that's why I'm drawn to him. I think I feel for the guy. I think he's a broken human being. And
I think so.
I think they're all broken a little bit.
They're all broken a little bit.
I can see.
That's why I like this movie. I think
when going through high school, that's what part of me likes about this movie is I can see broken parts in all of them that I've had or know someone that's had.
Yeah.
So
well, and that's what they're trying to tell you is Bender's got problems.
Mm-hmm.
Like before he talks, he probably has a bad home life. Like his life is not great. You know that.
Yeah.
But you just assume Molly Ringwald and Anthony Michael Hall and Emilio Estevez. You assume, hey, he's a popular wrestler. She's a popular girl, so their lives must be great.
Well, yeah.
And then, of course, you find out that it's not. And you learn real quick that, just because he comes from the really bad home, that doesn't mean because they come from the rich homes or the nice homes that those are really great homes too.
Yeah.
And you see that they're not real quick. I mean, we have suicidal tendencies. We have, in Claire's life, her parents are buying gifts just to buy her off.
Right.
I mean, all these things. So I think that's what they try to tie together.
I read a fan theory that they had questions about Claire's daddy situation.
Okay.
And when you watch the interaction of them in the car when they get ready to drop off for it is weird.
It might be.
He's too close.
I don't want to go down that. I don't want to go down that road today. Yeah. So, all right. So you have Bender.
Bender. I just.
All right.
I like his character. I like his acting. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. I don't agree, but we'll let you have it.
That's right.
So, all right. That takes us to category 9, our last category, the Harry Temple. I should have stayed in Aspen category.
Boy.
Aspen it is.
All right, so this is a moment in the movie when a character knows or realizes their demise, or that something really bad may occur to them or something around them. So, Rob, we'll start with you. What's your Aspen moment?
My Aspen moment is after Vernon and
Carl?
No.
Bender?
Bender.
Okay.
After Vernon and Bender have their first argument.
Okay.
And the door shuts behind him, and Bender says, F you. They pan back to Vernon, and there's a moment where I can't tell if it's a moment of regret because he's just gotten into a verbal altercation with a kid.
He doesn't care.
Or if it's this thought of, like, what the hell am I doing? Why?
Yeah, that's the part I would say.
And he just.
Why am I putting up with this?
He looks defeated, and I want to believe there's an element of he feels sick about what he's just done, But then he does it later. He locks the kid in it, so he obviously didn't feel bad.
It's a perfect. I wish I was an Aspen.
But
moment.
he just kind of looks down and takes a deep breath, like, "Holy crap!
Sucks.
What am I doing?"
I think is this going to be a long day?
Right? Because then later he's bored. He's in his office making stuff out of cups and pencils.
That was pretty impressive. The cup thing that was spinning.
By the way,
top of one
so he doesn't have enough work to be there.
By the way, I know what you do during the day. I feel like he would have had stuff to do on that Saturday.
Oh, absolutely. There's things you could be doing.
Yeah. So, all right, what do you got, Kurt?
I went with Brian's face when Bender goes, "My weed's in your underwear."
Oh, good one.
And he just goes,
"Oh, yeah," because he's not used to that.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, I'm going to be in so much trouble." But yeah.
Well, my scene is in the closet when he tells Bender, "Go ahead and take a shot at me." You can see Bender's face. Yeah. Like Bender's been in this situation before. He's been threatened. He's been probably hit already. He's been told he's going to be punched. He's worthless his whole life. And just at that moment, before that, he's a smart ass. He's got all the little lines. He's harassing Claire. He's in charge of the whole situation in the library. And then when he puts him in that closet, you can see on Bender's face for a minute, he's not in charge. And he's actually a little, he looks a little nervous.
There's
Like,
a
he
spot
thinks
where
that-
Vernon lifts up an arm,
Yeah.
and Bender
recoils.
Yeah.
Well,
and
that was
he
real.
actually thought he was going to hit him in
Yeah.
that moment.
Yeah.
So there's an
well,
actual thing.
and for the character, that would be the right reaction
Yeah.
because that's what you're used to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's my Aspen moment. Super fun, right? We got a lot of fun stuff going on
All
this
right,
week.
good job.
Way to bring up the mood of the
then
studio.
very
when
lively.
when he climbs through the
Yeah.
thing. We had a kid when I was doing my internship. He
escaped.
He did the same thing. We had these little rooms, and he had been put in there to calm down.
Did you get him back?
And we went to check on him. He was gone.
Gone.
And he had set a chair up on top of the desk, and he was up in the he was
Bender,
up.
In the
Bender not
false
very,
ceiling.
Bender not very smart on his escape. Left his coat behind, and if Vern once just poked his head in, he'd have been like, but again, never poked his head in the rest of the day.
Yeah, no.
that's all I
Didn't even
John,
worry
pretty
about
much.
it.
Yeah.
So all right. Well, that brings us up to the end of all of our categories. So, quick question before we do our final judgment.
Yeah.
Let's look back at Brian's question because he asks it during the circle of when they get high and they get all the truths out.
Right.
His question is, what happens on Monday?
Yeah.
So what happens on Monday?
They go back to doing their.
I was going to say, they pretty much go back.
Yeah.
They might
Yeah.
do a head nod in a little
yeah.
bit as they walk down the,
I think so, too.
hallway, but that's about as it.
Yeah,
as far
I
as it
think
goes.
they're not going to talk to Brian. I don't care.
Bender and Claire aren't getting together.
They can
No.
they can still hang out a little because it's taboo, but she's not going to acknowledge him at school. It's going to be one of those we see each other after school thing, and he's not going to acknowledge her around his friends because they're going to be like, "Why are you with that prissy popular girl?"
And if you notice at the scene at the end when they make out, they're on her dad's car.
Yes,
So they watched that whole thing. That was just a big FU to dad.
it was.
Or,
That's
you know,
all that was.
She was using him. He's using her.
And she gets in the car and doesn't even look at Dad once.
No. One Saturday detention with a little truth being spilled is not going to solve the actual problems those five have.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, then that takes us to our final judgment, which I think we already know where Rob's going to go with this, and I think we know where Kurt's going to go with this. But I've got here's the questions. You can wrap it all however you want to answer it. Does it still hold up? Do you think this would impact young adults and kids today like it did back in the 80s? So we'll start with Kurt. What do you think?
I think it still holds up for me and people of our age, but I think kids these days, they're so tied into electronics and other things that are happening that they have still some of the same problems each one of the kids have, but I think they all experience it differently, so it won't resonate quite so much with them.
No, I agree with that. I think.
Well, what's your final judgment on the movie?
Oh, for me, still, I give a solitary fist in the air.
Solitary fist in the air.
Of greatness.
Goodness, great.
Fist of greatness.
Fist of
I
greatness.
like it.
You gotta love a good fist.
There, I knew it was happening.
You
As soon as you said fist of greatness, I go, he's going to say,
Everybody loves
"I
a
love
fist
a
of
good
greatness."
fisting. Whether it's a toe fisting, a hand fisting, or fisting was going to come
As long as
into
it's
play.
isting, I'm okay with it.
That's right.
Okay.
So,
No, I think the movie absolutely still holds up. And,
Okay.
Would it resonate today? I don't know if it would resonate with kids. I get frustrated with my own kids because I'm like, listen to them talk. Listen to the dialogue.
Yeah.
And they got their heads down. They're looking at their phones. I'm like, listen to what the guy said. He just said something really profound. It was good. And they're like, what? They didn't catch it. But I think as far as the content, I think the movie actually now is relevant again. I think a lot of the trauma that those kids are facing, I think our society is pretty messed up right now, and I think a lot of kids are facing some hard stuff, and so I think there's a lot of benders out there.
but you love the movie.
I love them.
Gotcha.
Absolutely love it.
So,
I think it's great. One of my faves.
I like the movie. I'm going to go on a small rant here. You can tell me I'm wrong when I'm done, but this is my small rant.
I'm just
so,
going to say you're wrong now.
That's right.
We'll save ourselves.
I don't think I'm as wrong as you think, but we'll see what happens. So I enjoy the movie for the most part of how it's going on. I think they lean way too much into Bender harassing Claire the whole day. I think there's too much of that. Him making a few cracks here and there might have been, but I mean, him focusing in on her constantly, it just borders on overt harassment is what it does. And here's what I don't like. So the whole point of this movie, I think, is, and this is why I think the ending undoes what they were trying to do in the movie. The whole movie was these stereotypes, but then they have their coming together part where maybe we're starting to break through these stereotypes, and we're supposed to.
Nope.
you start to think that maybe there's some evolution because Allison kind of comes around a little bit to accept having friends and doing stuff like that. Brian's starting to think, okay, I don't have to be this perfect person. Andrew, he's actually remorseful for what he did. He did it, but he does have remorse for it. So at least that shows some sort of progress. And then Molly Ringwald, I mean, she's kind of herself, but at least she kind of starts to recognize the people around her, that there can be different people. It's not just her clique all the time. What I don't like is that Bender does not evolve at all. He is the same the whole movie. Had they at least made it to where maybe he made some progress being around the other kids, I would have liked that. But him and Molly Ringwald getting together at the end makes literally no sense to me. Yeah. For him to treat her the way he did the entire day, and then for him to go make out with him, I just think the message that sends in the 80s to teenagers is, what are we doing here? Like, if he treats you like garbage all day, run to him. And if you really think about the end of the movie, they were battling these stereotypes only to really push them back together at the end, because they put the bad boy and the princess together. That's a stereotype. They put the jock with Allison, but only after they give her a makeover. So the message sent there is, if you make yourself pretty, then you can be popular.
Which but I liked Allison before the
but if you look like you did earlier in the day, it's kind of like because first thing Clark goes, oh, you're actually good looking. Right. So that sends a message that you got to doll yourself up to do that. And then if you think about it, Brian, in the end, they pair off. Brian still ends up by himself. The nerd has to write the essay. The nerd gets no girl, and then they're not going to talk to him on Monday. So they've reinforced the stereotype that the nerd is still the nerd at the end of the day, that bad boy gets the girl for no apparent reason. Again, had he evolved at some point and recognized what he was saying earlier to Claire towards the end, and then she's drawn to him, I could see if there was some evolution there. But there still isn't. At the end of the day, he's still just a complete piece of garbage. And he has said some horrific things to her all day. And then she makes out with him. Yeah, let's make our dad mad. I got it. I just think from a movie standpoint, this is a really bad message. That if you're a teenage girl, you know, if they treat you like garbage all day, that's the one you want to chase. You know what I mean?
No, I agree.
So for me, the ending undoes the stereotype breaking they were trying to do the whole movie. And so my opinion is it's a good movie for me up until the end, and then I don't like the ending. All right? I understand the iconic fist raise, and I got all that, but him with her, Bender with Claire, I don't like it. And honestly, having to clean up and give Ali Sheedy a makeover in order for Andrew to then think she was pretty, I think that sends a pretty terrible message as well. Because she was a really smart person.
They wanted to overdo that. That Ringwald and Sheedy wanted that to be filmed differently. Yeah. They wanted her to come out with different clothes on if she wasn't all dolled up.
I just think she should have stayed herself and have Andrew recognize her that way. I just think it sends a better message because she actually was pretty smart and she had good things to say. They just thought she was weird because she's being weird to catch attention. That's what she's doing. She's not actually weird.
But see, I think that's we're obviously looking too deep into it.
Yeah.
But and I think that's the brilliance of it, because I think as negative as this sounds, I'm usually generally a pretty positive person. I think this film almost kind of it gets credit because it's supposed to be real, and I think the fact that in our society and in schools a lot of time stereotypes don't change.
That's true.
We want them to.
Correct.
We want.
And they definitely won't change in just an afternoon.
Right. An afternoon. We want the bad guy to be good, and we want to think that we are better than looking at somebody for their looks.
I got you.
We're going to accept somebody for who they are. But at the end of the day, we all know that we've all been on the receiving end and the giving end of falling into that stereotype. I've been stereotyped, and I have stereotyped.
I just think when it seems like the basis of your movie is we're going to attack and break down these stereotypes, only to just at the end fall back into them so you can put a little bow on it. I just didn't like the way I didn't love the way the movie ended. That's all. So I'm gonna go 6.5 to 7 out of 10, and that's gonna be my Breakfast Club's one of those that if it's on TV, I'll sit and probably watch it depending on what part of it's in, but it's not one of those, like when I'm looking for a movie, I don't instantly go looking for the Breakfast Club.
Bring it back to the beginning. I feel like it's like listening to a Radiohead album.
There you go.
You have to be in a mood for you're not just you can put there's a lot of music you can just put on and listen to. Radiohead, you got to be in a mood, and I think
same thing.
The Breakfast Club is one of those movies.
Gotcha.
it can almost bring you down.
Yep.
It's not when you really look into it, it's not a very
All right.
movie,
Well, you guys are 10 out of 10s, right? I'm going to go
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 6.5 to 7 out of 10.
Now, if they would have had bras
I'll
on their
take the
heads
heat.
making women out of dolls,
Oh,
that would have bumped it up to
yeah.
a 10
Probably
for
at
him.
least a 9 at that
That's
point.
one thing. It didn't have any New York boobs.
I agree.
That automatically takes 2 off for him.
As much as I love New York boobs, this movie would not have made sense with boobs.
With boobs.
Like that's not the kind of movie it is.
No.
And I can appreciate that. So if I got boobs, there's plenty of 80s movies I can go to.
Gratuitous panty crotch shot.
It did.
Yeah, ew.
Uncomfortable, gratuitous
Ew.
panty crotch shot. Yeah, gross. All right, all right, fans. If you've loved today's,
I still don't like. I'm sorry, but I still don't like the kiss, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
He was 24 and she was 16.
16. How did they even get to film that?
Yeah,
I
that-
don't understand
that's-
how that works.
That was just ew for me.
yeah, that
That
seems
is weird.
illegal. But I guess she signed off, or her mom.
Yeah,
or-
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, 24 and 16 making out. We got some weird stuff going on there. So, all right, fans, if you loved today's episode, let us know. Follow us on X, Facebook, Instagram, Threads. Drop us YouTube. Drop us a comment with your favorite Breakfast Club moment, quote, or any 80s or 90s nostalgia you'd like us to cover, or anything you want to mention to us. Go on over to our YouTube channel. You can subscribe there if you want to watch us, or you can listen to us at work, something like that, if you can't do it through headphones or any of those other outlet sources from the podcast players.
If you're living in the dark ages.
Yeah, you can find any of our links in our famous show notes that I don't think anyone reads, but they're there every week. And you can just Google 80s, 90s Recall. You're going to find us everywhere on the interwebs.
There you go. Neo Maxi Zoom Dweebies Unite.
There it is.
All of us here at the Total 80s and 90s Recall team want to remind you that any monkey business is ill-advised, and we don't think you are a brownie hound. However, we also want to remind you that the Total 80s and 90s Recall podcast is the perfect complement to your listening experience and the perfect antidote to modern life. Want to know what's better than $2 and a beaver shot? A visit to Total 80s 90s Recall at podbean.com. That's what. Have ideas for future episodes or comments about previous shows? Hit the rewind button and email your 80s 90s flashbacks to 80s 90s Recall at gmail.com. Let the Totally 80s and 90s Recall team help you appreciate the present by indulging in a healthy dose of the good old days.
Beautiful.
Good old days. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Now I have a little optional homework for you. Whether you are a brain, an athlete, a basket case, a princess, or a criminal, if you could, please go to wherever you get your podcast and give us 5 stars and leave us a review. It doesn't have to be a 1,000-word essay, but we do want to hear what you think. Your review will help the show grow. Also, if you're looking for some cool gear to match your podcast love, head over to the online merch store. We know we are all pretty bizarre, and some of you are good at hiding it. Well, I say no need to hide it. Show off your love for the podcast with some awesome gear. Check it out today.
Hey, speaking of our store, friend of the show, GIF, made a comment this week, a little callback to Caddyshack. He said he was perusing our store and wondered if he bought a shirt, does he get a hanger? So,
well, you know, that could be possible. Just let me know your situation.
Holy crap.
I don't,
Told him-
actually, I haven't been
Wow.
able to get a hold of a wire hanger in a while.
So he just wanted to know if he bought that
Dang it,
shirt,
I thought we were.
is he going to get a
I thought
hanger?
we were
I think
past
we
that.
need that as a shirt.
Yeah, just have a hanger on it.
Just a
Yeah.
hanger.
Just
I never
just
swum before.
Says movie hound and it just has a hanger underneath it.
Or you could get one of those Maggie quotes. Thanks, that's all I need. So
I could change my name to Dr. Hound.
there you go.
Hold a
Oh,
hanger.
stop.
Well, that might be good.
Stop. No.
Next week,
No.
next time he's here, let's cue
Nope.
up the Doogie Howser music.
That's right.
So, all right. Well,
crap.
sushi's been eaten, friendships forged, and makeovers are completed. So that ends our time in podcast detention for this week. We hope you've enjoyed a look back 40 years at the John Hughes classic, The Breakfast Club. Classic, according to
said
the
it.
other two in the studio. Solid movie to me. As always, we want to thank the Movie Hound for lending his cinematic expertise to the show this week. Thanks.
Thank you.
As we always like to say. The Breakfast Club is currently streaming on all major platforms, but not free as of the recording of this episode. So if you want to watch it and you don't already own it, you're going to have to rent it and or buy it off of any of those streaming services. If you still have cable, just wait a week, and I'm sure it'll run on AMC or TBS because it seems to pop up on those all the time. So finally, a big shout out to you, our awesome listeners, whether you're tuning in for the first time or you're a long-time subscriber. We can't thank you enough for hanging out with us this week. We hope we gave you a fun hour or so of laughs, memories, and don't forget, when you mess with the bull, you get the horns.
That's right.
And you can catch all new episodes of Totally 80s and 90s Recall, horns free, every Tuesday.
Every
you
Tuesday.
guys are very horny.
We are horny.
Yeah, so it will be with horns.
With the horns and the fisting.
Oh,
That's right.
stop.
Oh.
Wow.
Horns
Wow.
plus fisting equals gift wire hanger.
Wow.
There you go.
All
Damn
right.
it.
Come on, we need to wrap this up.
We
So
have to.
What?
He's got to get dinner.
Yeah,
Put a bow on it.
Gifts given, or gifts. Kip's in the booth.
Kip's in the booth.
He's like wrapping
Yeah,
up. Wrapping up.
he's doing that thing.
What are we doing next time?
Next time we're gonna have some fun here, Rob.
Ooh.
I think you're gonna
We
like this
always
one.
have fun.
Yes, but I think you're really gonna like this. So we are going to cover 80s rap.
Okay.
So you're gonna go find your 10 favorite 80s rap songs.
Yeah, because I was all
Nice.
about the 80s.
You were.
right.
Yeah.
I think, and your only rules here, Rob, is that it had to come out in the 80s.
Wow.
Yep, you're free to run, free to do whatever you need
So
to
I'm
do.
gonna have like
You have
10
everything.
10 songs from the same person.
That sounds.
No, there's a couple.
Yeah,
Yeah,
A couple of good ones.
you could avoid that.
Yeah.
He's actually he knows some 80s
There
rap.
might be some.
You want to
I don't want to start saying any.
You want to
Yeah,
come?
don't- I'll text you.
You could come hang
You
out
can
with
help
us
me
and
out.
tell us what you think of our picks.
That's right. I was very big into the rap, hip hop, and
He was.
in my single digit years.
Should you be here with us then next week?
Probably not.
No, you should.
I got
All
to
right.
do my taxes.
Got a thing.
Yeah.
He's
Got a thing.
Got a thing.
Got
Feed the hogs.
Feed the hogs.
I got some appointments. People are seeing me about being a doctor. I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
All
Got
right.
your colonoscopy.
No
You gotta
wire
do.
hangers.
That's
Oh.
right.
That's
All
right.
right.
So, all right. So, 80s rap, Rob.
Okay, I'm
you,
in. I'm
I
in.
think you're gonna like the research on this
I'm
one.
in.
So, all right.
That's
well,
dope. It's dope.
dope. Money.
That's money.
You got anything else?
Nothing else.
Fancy goodbye.
No fancy goodbye.
Beautiful. There it is. People knew they weren't getting away without hearing this, right? They knew. They had to know.
Bring the hanger back.
Now, hey, that was
It's
Gift.
always hanging around.
That was Gift's fault. Not mine.
Shout out to Gil.
Yeah. I don't know if we can mail one up to Bemidji, Minnesota.
What'd you
but we
just
can
say?
try.
Easy for
Bemidji.
you to say.
Bemidji.
It's cold. You
Minnesota.
got to stutter.
Yeah, that's what you do when you're Bemidji.